Hello, welcome to Car Conversations with me, Chris. My name is Chris Ward. I'm the author of the Tube Rider series, the Slim Hardy Mystery series as Jack Benton, the Lamb's Well Gone Down Dinosaur Apocalypse series as Benton Ford, and the Delightful Christmas series and some others as C.P. Ward. There's some of the many, and I'm coming to you today. I wanted to bring you somewhere way more exciting than the 7-Eleven car park. So I've just pulled up outside big river. There you go, you can see the river down there. It's a this is the Sai River in Japan, which sort of threads through the mountains. I'll give you a quick look. I mean, it doesn't really matter because you're going to spend most of the time looking at my fantastically handsome face. Oh, lucky things you. Well, there goes the phone. And there we go, lovely jubbly. And yeah, I've stopped here. It's not a natural river. Well, it is, but it's absolutely covered in dams, so none of the water is naturally flowing. Although it does look pretty. It's a bit green down there, I'm not sure why. It might be like a bit of chemical discharge or something, or perhaps just because it's getting towards evening. But anyway, moving on, what I'm going to talk to you about today is that eternal question that all you beginning writers really definitely want to know the answer to, which is how much us writers actually write. In terms of numbers of words and pages and things, how much do we actually write? Now, there is an answer, which I will tell you. For those of you that love clickbait, it's at the 25-minute mark. I'm joking. I'm not sure we'll get that far. But anyway, there is a correct answer. But before I tell you the correct answer, I will tell you that this is an extremely open-ended thing, because it is very much how long is a piece of string. There are writers out there that have done one book in their lives, and that took them 20 years, which God knows how many words that is per day, but probably not many. And then there's writers who have started a book on Monday and finished it on Wednesday. There's some people literally do write that quick, which is terrifying to imagine even for me. But anyway, here's the true answer of how much writers actually write. If you ask any writer, you will probably get this answer, and the answer is not enough. There you go. That's your answer. We do not write enough. None of us do. Most of us waste way too much time not actually writing when we could be writing. It's not like you can go to a normal job and just waste hours, oh yeah, I don't feel like sort of typing in mortgage adjustments today. I'm gonna go and wash up, or I'm gonna go and dust the spare room. But writers are notoriously good at procrastinating. But anyway, on a more serious note, how much do we write? Those of us no one has ever actually asked me that outside of the writing community, because I don't think people really care or think about it, but it's something that all writers think about, and all writers want to know about other people to sort of gauge up the competition. And all of us are in awe of those very few that are churning out sort of in the region of 10,000 words a day or more. There are people that do that, and there are people that for them 10,000 words a day is normal. And just to clarify, 10,000 words a day in page numbers is, if you think a page is about 300 words, so 10,000 words is about 35 pages, which is a hell of a lot. So if you're writing 10,000 words a day, your average sort of domestic thriller is about 90,000 words. So if you think that you could churn one of those out within 2 weeks of just working days, you could have your draft done. I mean, some people do write that quick. And by the way, just to clarify, I'm talking about actually writing, as in with a pen or with your computer or dictation, because that counts. I'm not talking about putting a prompt into ChatGPT and having it churn out some generic whatever book, which a lot of people are now doing. That is not writing. You can call it whatever you want, but it's not writing. Sorry. And although I'm not 100% against AI, I do not want to rant, because I do use it for stuff. ChatGPT, for example, is brilliant for proofreading, and I do use it for translations. There's your full disclosure. But writing a book with ChatGPT is not writing a book, or with one of these other ones. Sorry if that disappoints you. Let's just clear that up. So I'm talking about people that actually write the words, that think them up in their brain and then compute them onto a piece of paper or a screen. That is writing for me. And so yes, there are people that write about 10,000 words a day. I have never written 10,000 words a day. Because I've been recording, I can literally tell you how many words I write, because when I started self-publishing in 2012, I set up a spreadsheet, and since then, barring a couple of months where I've had computer crashes and I've had to estimate, I have recorded every single word of fiction that I've written. And I'm currently, since 2012, I'm at about 5.8 million words, which is a decent amount, I guess. It's not too bad. I write, on average, I write between, I'd say, 350 and 400,000 words a year. And this year so far, I'm at 335. I was hoping to, last year was a pretty rubbish year. I got 322,000 words last year, which was kind of annoying because most of them came before June. And then I had a flash drive crash, my computer broke, I fell out with someone for whatever reason, and I had a whole bunch of stuff that went on that wasn't good. And that threw me out for several months. And I did pick up a little bit towards November and December, but I didn't get as many words as I wanted. And again this year, I basically decided to write straight until June. So I did. I wrote for 6 months straight, and then I took a few months off to edit. And I've basically and then I started writing a Slim Hardy book, which is under my Jack Benton name. And they just take ages because I write them on my phone. So it took me 4 months to write that, but that is in the bag. So I'm happy about that. So I've already got one book to come out next year finished, and I'm back writing now. I'm writing another Lambs book now. I'm on Lambs 5, that hopefully I'm hoping to finish that by the end of December. My aim is to get close to 400,000, but I know me, and I know that what the stats say, I probably won't get to 400,000. I would say that, looking at what I've got so far, if I get to 380, I'll have had a pretty good last bit of the year, basically. But anyway, to go into a little bit more detail. So let's say, for example, today so far I've written 1,908 words, which is not too bad. I'm pretty happy. Anytime I go over 1,500 words for a day, which is roughly 5 pages, I'm pretty happy. Most writers set as a standard, so 50,000 words in a month is good. That's what they used to call National Novel Writing Month in the USA was. Try and write a 50,000 word novel in a month. And so I've always seen that as a benchmark. If I get a 50k, I'm pretty happy with my month's work. Sorry to keep adjusting the phone, it's slipping a little bit. Never mind. And if I get a 50k, I'm pretty happy. But in general, I try to average over the year at least 1,000 words a day, which is basically 365,000 words a year. You don't need me to tell you that. I try and average 1,000 words a day. That's just over 3 pages. And even just doing that, you tick off the books. You really do. I mean, a lot of people seem to think that writing a book is this year-long, 2 years project. And I'm sure there are some. Some books are extremely technical and take an awful lot of research. And some writers are just way more meticulous than others, and do generally just take an awful long time to write. But a lot of these top pros that write, a lot of them either they have a contract. You see, they're traditionally published, and they have a contract, and they have the contract for say 1 book a year, and they hand in their book, and then they have to go through the whole rigmarole of having it edited and proofread and, you know, back and forth from their copy editor and all that. And then they have to go and do their promo stuff and all this and what have you, their TV interviews or whatever. I don't know, because I don't do it that way. But I'm a self-published indie writer with a day job. I finish 1 book. I finish it, email it to myself so I don't lose the draft, because I've had computers crash and lose pretty much entire books before. Happens a lot. Email it to myself so I've got it somewhere online, and then just start the next book. That's it. I just be like, all right, which one should we do now? You know, there's always several in the queue. Sometimes there's a couple that have been, you know, half finished and that need to be put to bed, kind of thing. I just get on with the next book, and then when that's done, I'll go back to the one that I've done, just finished, like 6 months before, and I'll edit it. I'll read it through, edit, and then I'll hire a proofreader and all that sort of stuff, depending on how much work it needs. You know, depending on your genre and how many books you've written, sometimes you'll find you don't need to do an awful lot of work after it's finished. I can generally, as I've said before, I don't do a great deal of editing. You know, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but generally the structure's there. You know, I trust myself that the story makes sense, and you can always find that out by leaving it 6 months before you read it, or at least 6 weeks, because you've forgotten what happens, and then you'll read it like a reader, and you're like, oh, that's pretty good, you know. And you're not, you know, if you should never read it over straight after finishing it, because it'll still be too fresh, and you won't see it objectively. You'll be too close to it. But anyway, so how much do I write? I don't want to get too far off topic. I got up this morning at, what was it, 4:20? I think it was. The cat woke me up for the 9th time, so for its 15th breakfast. So I got up. I usually get up around about 4. You know, if I get to bed early, I'm not going to pretend that I only sleep 4 hours a night like all these politicians claim. If they do that, they really shouldn't be in charge of anything. I generally don't sleep that much, though. I went to bed at 10:15 yesterday, and I woke up several times during the night. I had to get up at 1 for the cat, 2 for the child, 3 for the cat, 4 again for the cat. You know, and so I probably slept about 6 hours, of half of which was pretty broken, and that's, to be honest, that's pretty standard for me. You know, if I can, I try and get to bed at about 9:30, but it's rare because my daughter's 9 now. She's getting older and she just doesn't want to go to bed, but she always wants a story, so I have to stay up later than her. And then my wife just watches TV or does whatever she does, you know. But anyway, I got up about 4:30, 4:20, 4:30. I potted around for a bit, you know, wasted time basically, you know. And then I started writing. I usually try and start by 5:30. I got started a little bit early today. I started about 5:20. I had the cat on my lap. I've got my little cat Miffy, who's my writing companion. She's 16 and a half now, so I have to cherish her. We nearly lost her back in May. She had a terrible seizure and she's on daily medicine now, but you know, she's pretty recovered. She's good. She's in good condition for a cat of her age. So she sits here. So I sit on the sofa. I don't have some plush work chair and some mahogany desk. I sit on the sofa. I whack the sort of gloomy light on, and I put the heater on, make the coffee. Then the room will be warm. I sit on the sofa, and I've got a pillow to the cushion. I have the blanket over me, the cat on me, pillow, a couple of cushions to the side. My computer's on the cushion, so I get kind of shoulder ache because I'm leaning to the side while I write. And I wrote this morning. I can touch type, so I can write fairly quickly if I'm in the flow. And I wrote from roughly 5:30, just before, until about 6:30. So I wrote for about an hour this morning. That's pretty standard. Sometimes I do a bit less. Sometimes, especially on a weekend where I don't have to wake anyone else up for school or work, sometimes I'll just write until they get up, basically. But I mean, that's not an hour. I basically wrote an hour, and in that hour I got exactly, 1,667 words, which is the exact number that you need to get 50,000 words in a 30-day month. for 31 day months, it's 1,613. You know, us writers know these things. And I wrote for about an hour. You know, I didn't intend to write exactly that amount. I was just hoping to get up over sort of 12, 13, 14, 1500, and I'm pretty happy. If I get to 17, 18, I'm like really happy. Over 2,000, I'm just like, oh yeah, get in. Good day done. Don't have to think about it for the rest of the day because I've got my words in. And I got to 16 something, and then my wife woke up, and then my daughter woke up, and once there's noise, nothing gets done. I'm not one of these people. I can't do coffee shops. I can do my counts in a coffee shop. I can edit in a coffee shop. I can, you know, I can apply for promotions, but I can't write good words in a coffee shop or when people are around. I can't want all of the TV on. I need my quiet. The only thing that can be near me when I'm writing is the cat, because the cat basically just falls asleep. And I need my quiet time, and I'm a routine guy. I like my writing time at exactly the same time every day. So I rarely miss a day. I write almost every day when I'm writing. I don't care. Christmas Day, my birthday, the wife's birthday, I don't care. I'll get up before them, before anyone else, and I will do my words. And then I went to work and did a full day's work. Very busy day today. I was teaching a bunch of little kids today. It was a good day, busy, very, very busy. And in the afternoon, I did have a couple of free periods, but I was preparing because we've got an observation class on Friday, and me and the kids, the teacher wants to do Christmas craft, so we're going to make advent calendars, which means Chris teacher has had to do, you know, about 10 hours of preparation making stuff for a 45-minute lesson. So today I used ChatGPT to get some Japanese jokes, which I then had to get a teacher to check to make sure they made sense. Most of them didn't. So yeah, there's your AI for you. And then I had to fold them into little ribbons and stuff and put like a sticker on it. That's what I had to do for 2 hours in the afternoon. And then I saw a few minutes just before I went home. I jumped on and I whacked off 10 minutes on a side project that I've mentioned before. And I just sort of like wrote something random, and I got another 200-300 words, so I ended up today with 1908. I probably won't get any words when I get home because probably I'll have housework to do or whatever. So that's probably me done for today. That's 1908 words in about 70 minutes, which is not too bad, you know. And as I was saying before, just get, say, even if you only get 500 words a day, which if you touch type is probably, you could do that in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you know. Even if you don't touch type, you could get that in, say, 45 minutes, because that's not that much, you know. If you write 500 words a day, that works out 180,000 words a year. If you write big long books like thrillers, that's 2 books a year. Right there, 2 books a year on 500 words a day. If you write like my romances that I write, the rom-coms are roughly 50 to 60. So 500 words a day, I've got 3 of them, bang, like that, you know. And say when I write 1,000 words a day, that's six books a year, just like that, you know. And so it does add up, you know. Even if you're only writing a little bit, it really does add up. I mean, as I've said to you several times, I have a job, like, and I have a part-time job as well. I do private English lessons in the evening. So I have my publishing business, my publisher that I call, that, you know, that is basically me, is like my third job. You know, I am not free. I also have a wife and child. I have a busy life. I have an awful lot going on, and yet I still write on average 6 books a year of 50 to 60,000 word length books, you know. And so when people talk about, oh yeah, I'm going to write a book one day, or, you know, I'm working on a book, you know, if you just actually sit down and write, it doesn't take that long. You know, you can write it fairly quickly if you've got a story, if you know what you're going to talk about. You know, I'm getting a bit long on the time now, so we've got to keep it going to 25 minutes because that's when the clickbaiters are all going to wait for, you see, for the big answer, which I've already said. But anyway, a lot of people will say to you, oh, you know, I think I've got a book in me. I've got a book in me. And I'm like, well, in you is not that useful, is it really? You want to kind of like get it out of you, you know. And a lot of people also, I think that kind of like sort of that, you know, that's a little bit disrespectful to people that actually do write, because it's like as though saying, you know, anyone can do it. It's like, oh yeah, well, I feel like I've got a violin concerto in me. It's like, no, I haven't. I don't really even know what one is, and I don't play the violin. But you know, everyone seems to think they're capable of writing a book. The vast majority of people that think that probably can't, because as I've said before, the vast majority of people that hit it out of the park on their first go are an absolute fractional minority, and probably most of them had a few trunk novels. You know, the vast majority of us that make money through writing, even if it's not that much, and it usually isn't that much, are people that have spent an awful lot of time writing books and have written an awful lot of rubbish books before they wrote any good books. And the only way to actually write good books is to write rubbish books, and the only way to write rubbish books is to sit down and write and stop making excuses for why you haven't written anything. And so my advice to you is just to find some time every day and start writing. And even if you only write 500 words, if you think to yourself that if I write 500 words every day, I will have 2 thriller length books by the end of the year. And those, you know, 400, about 90,000 words is about 450 pages. That's 2 solid, fat, chunky books that you could have by the end of the year if you just spend 30 minutes a day writing 500 words. So do it. You don't have to write 10,000 words a day. I don't. The most I've ever written, I think, is 8,200, and that was brutal. That my hands were knackered. I don't know how people can write 30 pages a day. Like my hands would explode, my eyes would be gone. But anyway, it's getting dark. You might be able to see because it's getting fuzzy, and I need to go home, so I'm going to cut it off there. How much do writers write in their time? Answer is not enough, but just try and find time to write 500 words a day, and you will have, in 5 years, you will have a 10-book series, which could make you enough money that you could write full time. There you go. There's my advice for today. Write your 10-book series. It'll take you 5 years, and then you can quit your day job. And you can do that in 30 minutes a day, 500 words a day. Go and do it. See you next time. Thank you if you listened this far.